Equanimity. That's the purpose of this show. So you could just let go. So we can just let go of some stuff that we just need to let go of, you know? You work throughout the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you bust your behind. And by the end of the week, you are fatigued. You are tired. You're ready to just lay it down. And when you are that fatigued, sometimes it's just hard to let some of that bad juju off. You know, you just don't have the strength. You don't have the resolve. You know, you don't have that protective barrier because you just tired. You know, and before you know it, you cutting up, you fussing with yourself. Ain't nobody in the room. You fussing with yourself, you know? And so on Friday, we're gonna leave the week's business, the busyness of the week behind us by saying, is that so to some stuff?
Is
That's
that
what we're
so?
doing. Is that so? So real quick, Henri, what do you think of when you think about is that so?
Hey, man, when I think about is that so, I mean, it's it's any situation that it makes you want to get out of character, but you can't because again, 2021, what you said, it's about equanimity. So we're gonna go ahead on. Is that so? All of those
Mm,
moments of stress,
mm,
anxiety,
mm,
fear,
mm,
is that so? It's gonna bring a
mm.
lot of peace in your life. I'm telling you, is that so? So I mean,
Can it, can
you
the church
know,
say amen? I said, can the church say amen? All right, go ahead.
yeah, man, you just got pulled over, you know, for California rolling by some,
Oh,
no other
is
cars were there, but the police saw you, so you got pulled over anyway.
is that so? That's a big is that so, sir. That's a big is that so. That's a heavyweight is that so, man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's about that, man. You got to just let go of some stuff, you know. It's look, it's my form of radical acceptance. If y'all are familiar with the concept radical acceptance, which
Mm,
is there are some situations that you can just can't escape, you know. And so you just got to accept that this is occurring first. Don't be in that state of denial because that'll make things worse. So accept that this thing is occurring, right? And then put some radical acceptance on that bad boy by stopping your mind from judging it as good and bad. Just choose to be non-judgmental. I know that's hard as hell because all the mind does is look at things and judge it as good and bad. That's conditioned thinking. So my first question to you as a successful entrepreneur is exactly what is structured thinking and how the hell did you escape?
To me, structured thinking is people design a path for you. Just as being a therapist, also, we kind of talk about your origin and how does that, describe you and make up who you are today. So oftentimes people prescribe a path to you, and there's an expectation of this path. This is this. I like to call it generational thinking, pass through thinking, and so the way to get out of structured thinking is sometimes we have to go back and challenge those things that we were taught. And oftentimes in our cultures, especially in predominantly black cultures, challenges those things may come with some conflict. But for the most part of it, we are looking at challenging that thinking and trying to do something different. So the road that people have prescribed for you, when you kind of trying to step out of structured thinking, you don't mind taking taking another route, even if that brings you back to that same road. But oftentimes getting out of structured thinking, you literally are, this is the road they said, and let me exit off this interstate and get on my own line and start my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that structured thinking is real, that just getting out what you've been told.
So when I think about a structure, I think about, let's say, a room, you
Hmm.
know, and there are the limits of this structure being the
Hmm.
walls. And so when I think about getting outside of structured thinking, what I'm thinking about is getting outside of the limits that
Hmm.
are set for you in these walls. I think about my brother Bruce Lee, and he talked about the three stages of mastery. You know, he
Hmm.
said the first stage is, he said this is the same for any professional, any practice that you do. But he said, because I'm a martial artist, I'm going to use martial arts. He said the first stage of mastery is the natural undisciplined. Natural undisciplined. And when a fighter comes in and they swing wildly, you know, and
Hmm.
it's very unnatural, you know, they're not, I mean, it's very natural, but it's very
Hmm.
undisciplined. He said, then you move into the stage of discipline, which is the second stage of mastery, which is the unnatural discipline. And the unnatural discipline, you learn an art form, and then your body begins to contort and form muscles that
Hmm.
help you master that art form. And that's the longest stage, because that stage requires consistency and discipline. You got to be consistent with your craft, all right?
Hmm.
And you got to apply discipline and make sure that you make time for your craft, because if you don't tell your time what to do, your time will tell you what to do. And then the third stage is the natural the natural discipline. After you sat in that second stage for so long, you kept pushing, you kept grinding, no matter how tired you are, and you mastered that discipline. Now you're moving to the third stage, which is the natural discipline, in which now you can take that art form that you mastered and you can
Hmm.
elevate above that art form. That's why Bruce Lee's art form, Jeet Kune Do, I believe I pronounced it right, is called the farm of formlessness, the farm of no farms.
Hmm.
He mastered several different art forms, and then he rose above them all,
Hmm.
breaking out of structure. So it's not that structure doesn't have its benefit, is what I'm
Hmm.
saying, but you're not limited by structure, nor should we limit ourselves to structure.
I've learned that unstructured thinking creates more opportunities.
Mm,
Like I don't think, one thing, I don't know if you keep up with like business tech, business ideas and things like that. But if you remember back whenever Blockbuster was huge, you go pull up, rent your movie, take it home, you know, don't if you don't rewind it, they taxing you them extra $5.
oh yes, yes,
So
exactly.
if you remember Blockbuster, well, if you watched anything, when Netflix originally came to the scene, they went to Blockbuster and wanted to sell Netflix to Blockbuster.
Mm,
Blockbuster told Netflix that that is not a viable option as far as streaming live content, as far as being able to get the movies and things like that to the masses. That's going to be a fly by night. It's going to come up and flop.
mm.
Who out here still winning?
To the folks out there, there are known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. There are things that we know, things that we know that we don't know, and there are things that we don't know that we don't know. You see, in that unknown, there is this natural mechanism with us that causes us to be very, you know, the unknown area. When it comes down to the unknown, all right, that unknown, this is the place with the biggest reward. This is where the gold is at. This is where the jewels are at. But of course, we have a natural tendency to be afraid of that which we do not know, the unknown. But understand that the mind will put limits on you. Conditioned thinking in your mind will put limits on you based off of what it knows your limits to be. But the problem with that is that the mind has no idea what you're capable of. Your fears have no idea what you are capable of. And so the more that we know, the more that we explore, the more that we understand about ourselves, it expands our vision. We move from just snapshot limited thinking to a more panoramic view of life. And the wider you go, the wider your lens goes based off of your knowledge base, the more that you see, the more possibilities that you see for yourself. And so the higher you dream. And so understand the limitations of the mind, that the mind will limit you based off of what it know, and it doesn't know anything. So the best thing you can do from day one, assume that you know nothing. If you want to break outside of conditioned thinking, the conditioning of the mind, outside of structured thinking, begin with the posture of I know nothing.
We look at human design and we look at just kind of the development ourselves. Um, like you said, the vision that you have, the vision that you've given birth to, the things that you have, those are in your peak hours. I must be the daytime therapist because these nocturnal times don't do it for me.
Is
You
that
know,
so?
yeah, I'm running on fumes and a tight shirt. That's all you got. So, but
Yeah, I'll be out, and I promise you, I'll be up at least until 3 o'clock tonight. Even though I didn't see
my
people in there.
goodness, soon as this computer closes, my eyes are gonna close with it. But thinking about, even just processing and designing, if you go back to entrepreneurship and that structure thinking, if you get a vision or you get something in your mind, you got to be like, what in the world? What?
Hmm.
And you have that moment where you almost, because it's so different than where you currently are. And I'm gonna just use myself as an example. So I come from North Baton Rouge. Not many resources. People tell you, hey man, go to college, and so you leave there, and I'm first generation college. You feel like you about to go to college and you about to get broke off. And that's still part of that structured thinking. Like, go to college. And so, I 4 or 5 years in college, and I'm like, man, I'm about to graduate with this degree in psychology. I'm about to make $100,000 a year to get off of the job that's $10 an hour. And that's about the best that you're gonna find. And so you stay on that journey for a little while, and at some point I'm seeing everybody else with their degrees in psychology working these jobs, and you're getting paid 10, 11, maybe $12 an hour. And I'm like, I know goddamn well I ain't go to college for 5 years for somebody to pay me $12 an hour. No disrespect to nobody making $12 an hour, but I mean, when you start putting these letters and things behind your name, and these people that you didn't want to invested your time and effort into education, and Sally Mae hadn't even taken you out on a date, but she's steady asking you for money. You get on that journey, and you like, but then you realize that everybody's going the same way. So then I'm like, I need to do some research. And that's when I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, stuck in and out, around people. So that's how I figured out, like, like you said, people would always come to you with their problems. They would ask you about things, talk to you. And I was like, well, if I wanted to go back to school for this, because I loved every job that I had, it's just them paychecks was thin, and as a husband and a father, I just couldn't say, I'm going to bring this home,
No, you had to look at that check and be like, is that so?
Yeah, I had to.
So?
Yeah, when I look at that check, I'm like, is this so? And if it is, I need to punch whoever gave it to me.
It's time to make moves. It's time to make moves.
And so you get on that journey to start making moves, and your thoughts become so unconventional that nobody can relate to it. You like, man, listen, I'm about to, I can't take this, but you can't let it go. You cannot let it go, because it's so that vision has been so hard pressed in your mind. It's been punched that, and people start thinking you crazy. I was working a job with the state of so and so that we ain't gonna mention in here, but they had some people over there that were like, everybody was getting their master's degree, and I had some wonderful people that came to me and was like, hey man, get your master's degree. So I'm like, okay, y'all got me the first time with school. Y'all got me the first time. You go and make your money, and you go get your degree in psychology. You about to be making $100,000 a year. Y'all ain't about to set me for the okie doke again. So that's when I got on the path to start doing my research. And then when I learned, the ability and ways to make it in this field through mentorships with other people that were on that unstructured plan, I was like, oh, I got to go back to school. Come hell or high water, come August 2010, I'm gonna be in school. And so there was some struggles and strife there. So I ended up just quitting my job and going to school. And there were some naysayers on the path of that when I just literally just quit my job. And it was unstructured thinking, because I was 26, 27. I just quit my job. I lived my job as a musician, and what it allowed me, go ahead, Harry.
No.
But it allowed me the space to get in and out. And, from that graduation, my life has been on a trajectory. And so there were some people who were naysayers become question askers.
Yeah. Is that so?
And so when you think about the person who was the wildebeest to do, and I'm not saying my path is so extreme and rare. It's not. But what I'm saying is that I had to let that structured thinking go in order to grow. I had to let that go for every part of what I was doing in order to move forward. So when we talk about deviating, when we talk about being an outlier, when we talk about standing in a field by yourself, oftentimes we get that response where you think you better, you think that you don't understand, you don't, and so it's never about being better. It's never about my plan is better than yours. What it's saying is I want to try something different, and I may crash and burn and come back to the box. Well, not I ain't going back to the box, but I might crash and burn. But the simple fact that I gave it a shot was bigger than the idea of staying and doing nothing.
Exactly. Let me tell you something. I can tolerate failure because there is no success without failure, right, Reezy? I can tolerate failure, but what I cannot tolerate is stagnation. What I cannot tolerate is straddling the fence, because what people don't understand is that indecision, when we don't make a decision, indecision is a decision within itself.
Yep.
By choosing, you've made a choice. You've made a choice to remain exactly where the hell you are.
You know what I call that? I've always called that decision by default.
You don't want that default decision.
Nope.
No, you don't want that default decision.
I don't want that default setting.
There's nothing grand about that default. Yeah, that default setting. There's nothing grand about mediocrity. By definition, there's nothing grand about it. You know? So when it comes down to being uniquely you, that's what makes you an outlier. Every last one of us are an outlier at heart. You know, it's who has the courage to embrace it. Mm-hmm. Who has the courage to deviate and embrace it? You know, that word outlier resonated with me so much when I learned about it in sociological statistics, when I learned what an outlier was, because I realized that that's pretty much what I have been all my life. And I know that damn well what you've been throughout your career. Mm-hmm. How many times have you been in a room full of 300 people and my little chocolate milk dud head is the only chocolate milk dud head in there? Mm-hmm. I was first generation too to graduate from a traditional university, you know? And so we've broken so many boundaries, you know, that we practiced getting outside of structured thinking because we had to, because at every single level there was somebody or some people telling us that we were foolish for thinking the way that we were thinking.
Forcing you back in the box.
Exactly. You got to be unreasonable.